Mufussy's got the rage, let it flow. Holding on to stories, tales untold. He's the king of the ring, the last man standing. Dropkick the Commute.
Hello and welcome back to Dropkick the Commute. The date is January 16th, 2025. We're already 2 weeks into January, 2 weeks into the new year, and we are back to talk about more wrestling, the only podcast on the internet where I drive around in a car and talk about wrestling. First off, I want to thank everybody with the little relaunch of the channel. I appreciate you guys tuning in to all the TikToks and watching the full episode and all that stuff. So I really appreciate it. So thank you, everybody. Before we hop in the car, before we hop into talking about the week of wrestling, I want to talk about two kind of big things about WWE that just came out recently. The first one is a little bit of drama. Smackdown last week, you would notice that Corey Graves was not there. Where's Corey Graves? They had Wade Barrett and Joe Tessitore take over on SmackDown because Netflix, now they have Pat McAfee and Michael Cole. Where's Corey Graves? Corey Graves shows up on NXT New Year's Evil. He didn't seem very happy to be there. You can kind of tell from his demeanor. And honestly, it makes sense, getting pushed down to NXT and all that stuff. Because let's be honest, they push it like it is the third brand at the same level, but it's their developmental. Essentially, it's a step down. It is for WWE, but it is that lower brand. It's not Raw or SmackDown, you know? And he was doing great on SmackDown, so it's kind of a tragedy that he got pushed to NXT, but can understand why he's upset. But Corey Graves was so upset that he was on NXT that he took his frustration to Twitter in a now deleted tweet, which I actually went to look up the tweet today and it's apparently been deleted, so apparently it was real. He tweeted, "Imagine chasing your dream, then being told, not deciding, that you're no longer physically able to pursue your dream." Again, he couldn't wrestle, so he went to commentary. "Then you dedicate your life to something dream adjacent and being pretty fucking awesome at it. And then, when it's time to enjoy the fruits of your labor, being told you're not famous enough for your own job. Just in case you've wondered where I've been." Very much not happy at being on NXT. And there were so many people on Twitter that were like, "Oh, Corey, it's still WWE, like you're still on there." But no, like, I get it, man. I understand. He was doing great on SmackDown. Why not leave him on SmackDown in a 3-man booth? I don't really understand. They were like, put him in a 3-man booth on NXT, which isn't really needed, or put him in a 3-man booth on SmackDown, which you can do. I mean, Joe Tessitore's been doing a great job, but I think having Corey Graves there would add that little oomph to it, you know? Like, Wade Barrett is great, and Joe Tessitore is great, but having Corey Graves on there would definitely help. Like, Michael Cole and Pat McAfee can very much carry Raw. By having Corey Graves on SmackDown, I think would be a great choice, and I don't know why they didn't do that in the first place. Little goofy, I don't know. The other thing is, WWE and TNA announced today that they are going to be continuing their partnership, and they signed a multi-year deal together. So this WWE, NXT, and TNA stuff is going to continue, and I imagine in the Royal Rumble we're going to see a lot of TNA talent, and honestly that'd be great to have them in there. I think it would be very cool. So, you know, I'm hoping this stuff goes further than NXT, but from their announcement, it doesn't seem like it's going to. They said the agreement will enable talent to garner additional exposure across key WWE and TNA programming, including weekly flagship shows such as NXT, which airs live on the CW and TNA Impact, select WWE premium live events and TNA pay-per-views, in turn bolstering their in-ring, blah, 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 blah. So they signed a multi-year deal, so the TNA and WWE collab is going to continue. This is not going to be a short thing like AEW and TNA was. We're going to see NXT and TNA crossover a lot here. But again, I'm hoping it goes further than NXT. I would love to see that. We had a pretty decent week of wrestling, so let's hop into the car, let's get driving, and let's talk about the week. Here we are back in the official DTC sponsored car in Forza Horizon 5. I will be switching games eventually. I'm not only going to play Forza because I don't know how long I can take driving around in here, you know? Let's start off with Smackdown. Let's get driving. We opened the show with Paul Heyman coming out, and I love that. Paul Heyman is great every time he's on the screen. He really, like, amps up the show, you know? Paul goes out to the ring and he calls out Cody Rhodes, and he's like, hey, Tribal Chief wanted me to tell you he's coming for your title. And Cody's like, yeah, I know, bro. Like, what else would he be going for? I'm ready. Get him out here. KO interrupts them. And Kevin Owens is like, hey, what about the Royal Rumble? Worry about me first, because I'm going to get that title, and Roman's not going to have it. As Kevin Owens is talking, Bloodline comes out. They corner Paul Heyman and Cody Rhodes. And... Oh my god, I just fucked that person up. I'm so sorry. They corner Paul Heyman and Cody Rhodes, and Jimmy Uso comes to the rescue, which leads to a match later on in the night. Jimmy Uso, Cody Rhodes versus versus Jesus Christ, I can't talk. Jimmy Uso and Cody Rhodes versus Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. Absolute banger of a match. I absolutely loved it. We had a funny segment with LA Knight. Jacob Fatu was like wreaking havoc backstage. He's yelling. Nick Aldis is like, stop, bro, stop. And LA Knight comes in from off camera, and they're standing near like an exit door, and LA Knight just opens the door and fucking boots out Jacob, and it was the funniest shit. And Nick Aldis is like, oh, that solves that problem. But unfortunately, that led to Jacob Fatu interfering in LA Knight and Shinsuke Nakamura's match later on, which I don't know how I feel about it. They're using other people's matches to progress the Bloodline story, and it's like, you don't need to do that, but they did make that connection, so like it makes sense that he would interfere, but I don't know. I think LA Knight and Shinsuke should just have their rematch and not have to worry about the Bloodline in there. I think it's a little goofy. But LA Knight and Shinsuke did put on a banger, you know, up until the DQ spot. I like this version of Shinsuke, but I feel like the crowd isn't really connecting with him much. Heel Shinsuke is like not really connecting with the audience, it seems, like in person. But I love him. I don't know why people aren't vibing with him. I haven't seen anything really online saying people aren't vibing with him, but just telling from the crowd that's there, like, he's not getting as much heat as he should, you know? We had a rematch with Chelsea Green and Michin. The funniest thing about this that I just wanted to point out is Chelsea Green is like covered in US gear, right? Because she's the United States champion. So she's got like an American flag on and like all this stuff, and Piper Niven is her like Secret Service really sparkly suit. And as they were doing their entrance, Piper Niven's like looking around and she's like talking into a fake earpiece and shit. Really, really funny thing there. I love that gimmick. I think if we keep that going, that they could do really funny things together. Chelsea Green being the US champ is a really good fit, and I'm glad she's the first one to hold it, you know? I think that's about it for SmackDown. It's not super fresh in my mind because it was roughly a week ago, so. But it was a very solid episode. I'm excited to see what we get tomorrow. And we are building to the Royal Rumble, which is in 2 weeks, so that's pretty fire. The Royal Rumble's looking real stacked. Like, a lot of people have declared for it. We got John Cena. Roman Reigns is officially in it, as Paul Heyman said at the beginning of this. You know, presumably we might get The Rock. I don't really know. I feel like that'd be a little weird, but... And then, as I said earlier, we might get some TNA people in there with their continuing partnership now. So that would be really cool to see if we get some TNA people in there. You know, we had Jordan Grace last year in the Rumble, which was great. And I would love to see more. Like, yo, Matt and Jeff Hardy, put them in the fucking Rumble. the pop they would get would be absolutely insane. Let's hop over to Raw. Collision, I have nothing written down for. I thought Collision was okay, but nothing like super notable happened on it. Raw began with CM Punk coming out, and he's cutting his promo, you know, oh my god, Raw on Netflix, I love Raw and all this stuff, and he's like, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna win the Rumble and all this stuff. And Seth Rollins comes out, he's like, Punk, you're a cancer and all this stuff, you know, the usual, like saying their feud's not done. And then Drew McIntyre came out as well and just added fuel to the fire. This was just a really good promo overall. I thought, like a good battle of words between the three of them, and it was fun to see. Things are heating up. They all declared for the Rumble. Everyone, they're like, I'm gonna win the Rumble. No, I'm gonna win the Rumble. No, I'm gonna win the Rumble. And that's pretty much what it's gonna be leading up until the Rumble. We're gonna get a lot of promos like that, as we usually do. But I thought it was good. I'm excited to see those three in the Rumble again. Fingers crossed that CM Punk doesn't fucking injure his tricep again, because that would suck. Biggest thing of the night on Raw, we had the debut of Penta. And for those that don't know Penta, my first match that I ever saw with Penta, AEW All Out 2021, Lucha Bros versus the Young Bucks, World Tag Team Championships, Steel Cage. God damn, dude. Like, that is the quintessential Penta and Rey Fenix match. Like, you gotta watch it. Even if you don't like AEW, that is just a fucking banger of a match. I don't care if you hate AEW. Go watch it. It's just good wrestling right there. Such a good match. But Penta on Raw debut was very good. He was facing Chad Gable, and it was interesting because obviously AEW the no-sell Spotfest show, like, again, I find it entertaining, but Penta adjusting to the WWE slower style of things and like the storytelling, in-ring storytelling especially, he did really good. Like, this was an incredible match. We got a Penta driver. We got a Mexican destroyer from Penta. Like, he still did his flippy AEW moves, but it was at the slow pace and, you know, WWE style of things. And Chad Gable was the perfect one to pair him with, because Chad Gable is a master of selling. He sold the Mexican destroyer like his life depended on it, fucking flat on top of his head. It was insane. Just some crazy moves from both of them. And, you know, Chad Gable really worked the leg, and Penta sold it really well. Like, that shows that Penta can do that in-ring storytelling, because of how much he was selling the leg. I saw on Twitter people legitimately thought he was injured, and that, you know, that just goes to show how good he is at selling. So very good stuff from Penta. He had his whole family there in the front row. His daughter was crying tears of joy, and he cut a really, really good promo afterwards. I did not have subtitles on. I don't know what he said, and I didn't look it up after, but he was fucking passionate. Everybody in the crowd connected with him. He did speak some English afterwards, so he's just like, WWE is my home, this is my present, and I am very happy to be here. These are the big leagues. You could tell he is the happiest he has been probably ever. Getting to have that debut and that banger of a match in front of his family, in front of San Jose, like, it was just so good. It was so good. We had the finals of the Women's Intercontinental Championship, Dakota Kai, Lyra Valkyria. I really, really love this match. I love both Lyra and Dakota. Lyra did get the win, and that makes sense to me. Lyra has put on a really good showing in 2024. Absolute killer in the Queen of the Ring tournament. I really wanted her to win the Queen of the Ring tournament. I think out of all of the people in that, she was doing really great. Obviously Nia Jax won and all that stuff, and that led us to where we are now. But Lyra Valkyria put on a hell of a showing in both of the tournaments that she was in, and she absolutely deserves the Intercontinental Championship. The inaugural Intercontinental Champion. We had a really crazy bump in this match where Lyra did like a suplex from the apron onto the fucking concrete floor with Dakota, and they were both winded from that. It was one of the craziest bumps I've seen in a while. Just, you know, nothing like, oh, they went through 7 tables and all that. No, it was just like a brutal spot from those two, you know? That was a really, really good match. Glad to see Lyra Valkyria as the Intercontinental Champion. Very good stuff. Hoping they give her a really good run here. I think the mid-card titles will help the women, like, a lot. Make the women's roster, you know, that much better. So this is great to see. Lastly, the street fight between Damian Priest and Finn Balor. This was the grudge match, the rubber match, if you will. They were both 2-2. And this was crazy. Like, we had tables, kendo sticks, chairs all over the place. Absolutely insane bump from the crowd, like above one of the doorways. They do like a blue thunder bomb through some of the tables, like the catering tables that were there. This spot led into WWE coming out with a stretcher to put Finn Balor on. Finn Balor's on the stretcher. They start to wheel him out. Damian's like, nah, fuck this. He runs to the stretcher with Finn on it, starts beating the shit out of him, pushes it from the ramp to the ring. Finn rolls back in. They keep going at it. We got a couple coup de grace after Judgment Day interferes. Damian gives Finn a razor's edge through the table. And then, you know, South of Heaven gets the win. And Damian has won the grudge match. I thought this was such an entertaining match. Very good stuff from both of them. Finn Balor and Damian Priest, I felt like, has been a little stale, but I think this was a good payoff for that feud. I'm hoping they don't keep dragging it on too much longer. Like, we don't need anything crazy here. I think this was a good conclusion to it. Let's move on. Let Judgment Day move on. They don't have to be stuck on only Damian and Rhea for the rest of their lives. There's plenty of other people they can face, plenty of other people they can get involved with. So NXT was a really good first episode back from the, you know, New Year's Evil, the new era that we have entered with Julia and Obafemi as the NXT champions. One of my favorite things from this episode was that Ethan Page is just going on a fucking rampage and just destroying people. He like put Dante Chen's leg in between the stairs and the ring post and absolutely fucked him up. Javon came out again to try and save Dante. Ethan gave him one little bop to the face, and again Javon started fucking bleeding tremendously from his mouth. And Ethan Page is just going on a rampage throughout NXT's, trying to just fuck up whoever he wants. I think this is what we needed from Ethan Page, if I'm being honest. Like, it's making him interesting. He is using, you know, losing the NXT title as like fuel to carry out his rage, and I think it's working really well. I think this is a good step in the right direction for Ethan's character. So I'm loving this. Ethan, keep destroying people. I would love to see what you continue to do. I'm not going to cover too much from NXT, but the other really big thing was Roxanne came out to do a promo, and she's like, oh, you know, I unfortunately wasn't the better woman in New Year's Evil. You know, Julia got the best of me, but it started out as like kind of a wholesome, like, good on Julia promo, but then she was like, now the women's division sucks. And I think that's silly, because it's like, does it suck after only 1 week? But she's like, now the women's division sucks. It's never going to be as good as it was now that I'm not the women's champion and all this stuff. And then we had Bayley come out, which I thought was really interesting. Bayley was like, hey, you know, I've lost so many matches, and, you know, don't feel too down, like, trying to give her all this advice and stuff. And Roxanne was like, I don't want your fucking advice. Like, get out of here. You're lame. I don't know if they're going to use Bayley to elevate Roxanne to, like, the Smackdown roster, maybe? Or if Bayley is going to have, like, a short little run on NXT against Roxanne. That could be cool to see. Maybe Bailey will help elevate some of the talent on NXT there. I think using this to elevate Roxanne to SmackDown could be cool. So that would be a good path that I would like to see. But I don't know. We'll see what happens, as we do in all of professional wrestling. Lastly, I'm going to talk about Dynamite. It is fresh in my mind. I watched it during work today. While I was working, don't worry. And I just want to say I love that AEW is doing these smaller venues. This week they were at the Brady Music Center, which is a relatively small, like 3,000, 2,000 person venue for, smaller bands, small to medium-sized bands. I absolutely loved this venue. I loved what they did with it. What they did was have the hard cam above the entrance ramp, so it was facing the commentary table and you had all the crowd behind it, so it really filled out the screen, made the crowd feel really full. And it was a full crowd. I believe it was a sold-out venue. I love that they're going to these small venues. It's really making the crowd feel more full. And that's what they should keep doing for the rest of 2025. Like, this was the perfect crowd size for them. I would love to see them go to the factory where NXT went. I think that would be such a cool venue for AEW. Like, even when they were there, I was like, this is the perfect AEW venue. Like, they need to go here. So it would be great to see them at that place. But yeah, keep booking the small crowds, AEW. This was great. Very good stuff from you. We started off Maximum Carnage with Kenny Omega versus Brian Cage. This was a really good first match back for Kenny Omega in AEW. Brian Cage is one big scary motherfucker. So it was cool to have him involved with the Callis family, like, right when he comes back. There was a moment where Brian Cage takes him outside of the ring, chucks him onto the commentary table, and Don Callis gets up quickly and starts getting in some cheap shots on him. And I just love when Don Callis gets physically involved with anything because he looks so funny doing it. He's like so stiff and very unnatural, which he's supposed to be. He's a manager, like he's not supposed to be like this crazy in-ring talent, but it looks so funny whenever he gets physically involved with stuff. So he gets in some cheap shots on Kenny Omega, but Kenny Omega did win this match, and the Callis family attacks him afterwards. Will Ospreay comes to the save again for Kenny Omega, and unfortunately this time Takeshita comes out, and the Callis family gets the upper hand. So Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay are left laying in the ring, and they're like, oh, so sad. So presumably this is going to lead to some kind of tag match. Maybe Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay versus like Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita. That's kind of what I've been seeing online. I think that would be a really, really dope match. Even Brian Cage and Lance Archer, but give me Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita. That one would go way harder. Eventually, if you're going to lead to reigniting the feud between Ospreay and Omega, then they're going to have to figure out a way to do that. Or you can have them both as faces and just like, hey, let's have a little grudge match here. You don't need anything crazy, but it would be good to see, I don't think we need Kenny Omega and Ospreay turning heel, like either of them. So if they want to have them fight each other, then just have them face off as faces. That's totally fine. We had a moment where Ricochet was going to cut a promo, so Justin Roberts goes, ladies and gentlemen, show some love for Ricochet. Ricochet comes out. Of course, the crowd is booing him. Crazy amount of heat. Crowd is not letting Ricochet talk. And then Ricochet was like, you know what? A picture says 1,000 words. Puts up the picture on the screen of him stabbing Swerve with the scissors. And then Whose House comes on. And Prince Nana attacks Ricochet from behind with a chair. And Swerve and Nana start beating the shit out of Ricochet. So, don't fuck with him. Don't fuck with him. Love to get a match soon between Swerve and Ricochet. Which we're definitely building to. So we had a trios match with the Hurt Syndicate versus Private Party and Mark Briscoe. This was really good. MVP actually got in the ring for the first time in 2.5 years, And MVP was looking good. He was looking decent in there. He's a bit slower than the other guys, obviously, but he was still looking solid in the match. He started off the match, and he was in it for quite a while before he tagged anyone out. Hurt Syndicate did get the dub here, which great. Honestly, make them look strong. Keep pushing them. Hurt Syndicate is really great. They've been doing really great stuff, and they're very good heels. So Christian Cage versus Hook. This match was solid, but again, ended in a DQ. Like, we've had so many DQs in wrestling this week. This ended in a DQ when Hook was trying to make Christian tap. Christian is like, no, I'm not losing to this. So he calls in the patriarchy, and they start attacking Hook. They were going to grab a chair, and they were going to go take out Hook's leg with it. And Taz stands up from commentary. Return of Taz, by the way, to commentary. So Taz gets up, and he's like about to go to the ring. But there was no need, because Samoa Joe has made his return to AEW. He's all done with Yakuza and fucking Twisted Metal or whatever. So he is back in AEW. Comes to the rescue. We have a good little reunion with Hook, Samoa Joe, and Shibata in the ring up against the patriarchy. Thank God Samoa Joe's back. Like, this is crazy. We just had the return of Edge. We have the return of Samoa Joe. We have the return of Kenny Omega. Like, if there's anyone that can help AEW feel good right now, it's them. So those are your three guys right there. Finally, we have the main event. Powerhouse Hobbs, Jon Moxley. Very, very solid match. Good showing from Powerhouse Hobbs. Hobbs is a fucking beast, man. Like, he is so crazy. There was a moment where they're both on the turnbuckle, and Powerhouse Hobbs bites Mox's earring out of his ear, and Mox starts profusely bleeding all over the place. Like, it was just such a beastly move. So Mox is covered in blood the rest of the match. Hobbs has got blood on his mouth, blood all over the place. Like, it was a very, very physical match, and Mox did get the win here, but they protected Hobbs a little bit. Hobbs didn't tap. Hobbs didn't get pinned. He passed out from the submission. Then, of course, the Death Riders were interfering all match. And then they come in after the match to beat the shit out of Hobbs. And Rated FTR come to the rescue. Mox and the crew get scared away, and they get out of there. They scurry on out of there. So I'm assuming at Revolution, that's probably when we're going to get Cope versus Mox, because that seems to be what they're building to right now. I don't think that would be at Grand Slam Australia. I mean, Grand Slam is their next, like, big show, but apparently that's not a pay-per-view. I imagine their match is going to be at Revolution, and if that's the next main event, that's going to be great. I just am sick of the Death Riders interfering in literally everything. The Death Riders and Mox isn't really working for me because we don't know Mox's fucking motivation. Like, why are you doing this? Tell us why, instead of, oh, it's too big for you to understand. You'll never understand. I'm doing this for AEW. The good of AEW. You guys can't see the title because no one deserves it. Like, tell us why, you know? We need the motivation. I think we are going to pull over on the side of the road here so I can say goodbye. Oh my God, a beautiful farm. I think that is about it for stuff that I want to cover from the weekly shows. Apparently we have TNA Genesis coming up this Sunday, which I completely forgot about. The main event for that is going to be Nick Nemeth versus Joe Hendry, so perhaps I might watch it. That'll be a banger, I'm sure. We got Smackdown coming up, and we got the Royal Rumble in just a few weeks, so stuff is about to heat up here. I recorded 2 other videos this week. I'll be editing them to put out probably sometime next week. I'm really excited for you guys to see them. I think they're going to be very funny, very silly stuff. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for the support. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out some other episodes if you'd like with the uncertain future of TikTok, be sure to watch the YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. Until there's a TikTok alternative. We don't know what's happening on Sunday with TikTok, so we shall see. I imagine it's probably going to stay up, but if it doesn't, I'll still post all the short content to, YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Don't forget to Dropkick your commute, your day, your week. Give it a drop kick, drop kickers.